Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here with the Trashman. We're going to be doing a first-round Dynasty mock draft today. I think we're going to be doing a one-quarterback one, as all the early ones that I've been taking part in have been super flex. Wanted to start getting some chops in here for any upcoming one quarterback dynasty leagues that I have going on, and just kind of go through that thought process with you guys. We'll also be breaking down Tyjae Spears, the running back out of Tulane. Trashman, is it still raining cats and dogs at your house?
No. Well, just little puppies.
We could definitely use it. I'll take puppies. I'll take anything. It can be dogs, kittens. It's got to be raining something. This lake's got to get filled back up before the summertime.
I have no use for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, you could just spare it for the rest of us.
I've got to wipe my dog's feet every time they come in and out of the house.
Listen, man, speaking of people coming in and out of your house, there's this issue with Joe Mixon that I just wanted to talk about from the news today. And I'm looking here at this article on Yahoo. You know, he had back in March, he was investigated for a shooting at his home. And just reading from the article, this is not what has sort of come back up. But
I thought this is from like brandishing of a firearm.
Right. Well, it's been a bad offseason for Joe Mixon, and I kind of want to discuss with you what you think we should be doing here with him on the best ball cheat sheet and in the dynasty rankings, because there was look, here's the new thing. So Joe Mixon faces charges of aggravated menacing after he allegedly pointed a gun at a woman. Cincinnati police refiled charges against Mixon after discovering new evidence while conducting the investigation. So here's the official release on Bengals running back Joe Mixon from the city of Cincinnati about refiling a charge of aggravated menacing. This comes from Kelsey Conway on Twitter at Kelsey L. Conway. So here it is. This comes from, I want to make sure I read it right, so we're talking about somebody's legal situation, we don't want to misrepresent it. So this comes from the city of Cincinnati Police Department, Colonel Teresa A. Thieg. Update regarding alleged aggravated menacing incident that occurred on January 21st, 2023. Today, Cincinnati Police Department has refiled a criminal charge of aggravated menacing, a misdemeanor of the first degree, against Mr. Joe Mixon. This decision was reached following the discovery of new evidence during the investigative process. To preserve a fair and impartial judicial process for all parties involved, no investigatory details or evidence will be disclosed outside of official court proceedings. CPD is committed to a thorough, evidence-driven investigation of all reported offenses. So they've put out the press release saying that this is being refiled. What happened in January was he was accused of pointing a gun at a woman. From the article, police claim Mixon allegedly pointed the gun at the woman and said, "You should be popped in the face. I should shoot you. The police can't get me." An arrest warrant was filed for Mixon, who was initially charged with aggravated menacing. So that was dropped. A judge dismissed the case. Apparently, the incident took place the day before the Bengals played the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round of the playoffs. So it was right in the big middle of everything. Joe Mixon had some action. There was another thing that came up also in March. He was investigating in March after a shooting in his home, and he was apparently let go of that thing. But from the article, it says he was involved in a separate police investigation after a March shooting at his home. Police opened an investigation after a teenager was shot at Mixon's home in March. The teenager was reportedly shooting Nerf guns and ran onto Mixon's property. An unknown suspect allegedly started shooting a gun at the teenager from the backyard of Mixon. Mixon needs to get it together with his friends who he's hanging out with. The teen was struck in the foot and went to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. It goes on to say investigators said Mixon was spotted carrying a weapon he legally owned and registered. He was cleared by police as a suspect. So even if so, the NFL still has investigations into this stuff. It seems to me like a pattern of alleged conduct that they certainly wouldn't be happy about. The fact that this thing has been refiled by Cincinnati police with what they claim is a decision reached following the discovery of new evidence during the investigative process. To me, that makes me significantly worried about what this could mean for Joe Mixon legally, and any victims here notwithstanding. We're just here talking about it from a fantasy football perspective. I'm significantly worried about what we do with him in fantasy. Whenever you look at the Bengals depth chart, the only running backs they have on the roster right now truly are Travion Williams and Chris Evans. That's it. There's still a few free agent running backs left out there hanging around. Kareem Hunt's still out there.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Elliott's still out there. They didn't make any real moves on the free agent market with these running backs. I don't know if they have an eye on maybe one of these guys in the draft or anything. It doesn't feel like the Bengals have done much to give themselves a backstop in case there is a suspension for Joe Mixon. I mean, after hearing this news from today about the charges being refiled for the January incident and the fact that this March incident that he's been cleared of was something that was investigated by the police, where there was allegedly a teenager shot in the foot on his property. Doesn't this feel like something that the NFL is probably going to have to look into? And if so, I mean, what's the precedent here? How many games are we looking at? And what do we do with him in best ball? What do we do with him in dynasty? I'm beginning to wonder if I should maybe just remove him from the best ball cheat sheet until this thing gets cleared up. Or at some point, does he become at some point, if the guys let him fall to the 11th, 12th round or something like that, you just take him and hope it's best ball that you can, maybe get some spike weeks down the stretch.
I mean, I'm more concerned about him leaving the Bengals than I am about the NFL punishing him. I feel like it might be another kind of Kamara situation where by the time anything happens in the court of law, the NFL is kind of, slow to respond.
But the NFL, don't you, with here's the thing about it though, with the Alvin Kamara situation, the NFL was alerted by Las Vegas Metro Police about this happening before they allowed him to play the next day in the damn Pro Bowl. Right. So it's like it was going to look terrible for the NFL to do anything to Alvin Kamara until there was a formal investigation by the police and until the proceedings had already gone through, because they had already taken the stance back at the Pro Bowl whenever it was their money and their reputation and things on the line to say, look, we're going to let the legal process play out. We're going to, you know what I mean? I don't feel like that they're going to be as even-handed with every single player as they had to be with Kamara just by their own doing, right? That was by their own doing. They set that precedent early. I don't think that's a precedent that's necessarily always set, that the legal process has to be able to play completely out. And with a situation like this, with it being refiled, who knows when anything could come down as far as the results of the investigation. I don't think that they would be able to indict him or get any kind of have any sort of trial by the time that the season were to start. But it feels like once the facts of the investigation are laid out, that to me feels like the time where the NFL could say, okay, well, we had these two separate investigations that occurred in January and March. We're going to look into these before the NFL season gets started.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've yet to hear anything from the NFL in regards to either of these situations. So it's hard to speculate, what they'll do without hearing anything from them.
Well, I know it's hard to speculate, but this is our job. So what do we do about Mixon and best ball?
Well, we don't
take him. His ADP is already in the tank, trash man. I mean, it's already in the tank. Let me just pull.
I think it's more likely that he's on another team than he'll be reprimanded by the NFL, at least to some great degree.
But I don't think it has to. I don't think that it necessarily. I'm not talking. I don't think this is an either or thing. This isn't a binary. He can be on another team and still get disciplined from the NFL.
I know. I'm just saying it seems more likely to me that
would another team want to take him with all this stuff swirling around?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's still a good NFL running back.
So if he's a good NFL running back, why shouldn't we be interested with him in fantasy, regardless of the spot he ends up in?
I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I mean, you seem to be more apprehensive in this situation than I am regarding this.
Well, I'm worried he's going to be. I'm worried he's going to be suspended. So,
I'm less worried that'll be suspended.
Would you take Joe Mixon at the 7th round, 8th round turn in a best ball league right now?
So that would make him your
probably your RB3.
RB3, yeah.
Would you take Dameon Pierce or Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift up ahead of him? Rashad White?
Yes.
All those guys? What about Cam Akers or Isaiah Pacheco?
I hate Cam Akers.
That's fine. That's fine. I have him. I have Mixon right now priced in to be able to take a risk on him in best ball right now at the beginning of the 8th round if he falls there, and it's behind this tier of Rashad White, DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon. I feel like before he should have been in the tier more closely, like above the J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery, Javonte Williams. I feel like now he belongs in that slightly lower tier. And that's also after you get through some of these sort of lower end, upside wide receiver 2 type of wide receivers. Like after you get through the George Pickenses and the Kadarius Tonys, now that it looks like he'll be the number 1 in Kansas City, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Rashad Bateman, these kinds of guys. I think those guys should probably be off the board before you look at Mixon.
I mean, I think it's fine. The thing is, like, I feel like in best ball situations, like hedging your bets on Joe Mixon playing the season could pay dividends in a best ball situation.
I think so too. And I think probably with this, I think we'll probably be able to get him at the beginning of the 8th round or something like that. I just think that's where I become comfortable, looking at a player with these sorts of issues swirling, not to mention what you said about the possibility about another team, all the rest of it, man. There's a lot of questions about Joe Mixon, and he's had a checkered history with these kinds of interactions. It's I think that's probably fine. I wanted to make sure with you that I wasn't kind of overreacting to it, but I don't feel like it's overreactionary. I think that we need to be clear-eyed with how we look at this and not overreact, but I also don't want to underreact and just pretend like it's not there. So
yeah. So I mean that's understandable. Yeah, but I still want to have some exposure to him.
Okay, well, we'll see if we get it. I'm going to start running simulations here on version 1.5 of the best ball cheat sheet. Of course, you can find that over at rosterwatch.com. I updated it yesterday with the news about Kyler Murray, where I just got Kyler Murray way the hell down with the news that it looks like he's not going to be ready to start the season. And it's funny. I saw that I got sent an email from one of these gambling websites, Trashman, and it has the team most likely to have the first overall pick or like the worst record in the league next year. They currently have that as the Cardinals. The sports books do. So maybe they knew something about Kyler. Just the state of that team, man. They're going to have to really rebuild and do some things
chances are D-Hop's not going to be there
as they develop a new identity. All right. So the Mixon stuff, that's fine. I'm going to get that updated again. Version 1.5 of the best ball cheat sheet. I'll get it to our web guy, and that'll be up at some point on Friday. All right, let's get through it, Trash Man. So let's just do a one-man dynasty mock draft. A one quarterback, 12-team dynasty rookie mock draft. Let's just say that I get the number 1 overall pick, and then you get to go number 2. Because it's just like I wish I had a pen so I could keep track of this. I'll just do it here on the old computer. With the first pick in this one, of course, it's going to go Bijan Robinson from Texas. I've yet to be in a draft or see a draft where it's anything different than that. Anything different than that would be, absolutely cockamamie. So Bijan Robinson, we've talked about him ad nauseum. He's a guy who it's like everybody knows how good that Bijan is, that I started doing his write-up and his evaluation for the website. And I'm just like, why am I even doing this? Everybody knows who Bijan is. Everybody knows he's the best. Everybody knows he's the 101. Like, there's a bunch of, people don't know who Tank Bigsby is, or they might not know who Sean Tucker is, or they might not know Izzy Abanikanda. Everybody knows Bijan Robinson. Everybody knows that he's the 101. So with the first pick, I go Bijan Robinson. And I feel like here at the pick number 2, I know who I would always take. I'm not sure who you are going to be taking here. So this probably won't be – I doubt this will be a chalk kind of dynasty rookie fallout like a lot of people have seen, because I know that our rankings could differ slightly from others. But who would you take here? 102 dynasty rookie draft, 1 quarterback, PPR, everything, relatively standard.
I don't know, and I would probably take, well, based off of our last podcast, I might just go on a limb and take Zach Charbonnet there.
You're going to take Charbonnet? Okay, we'll talk about Charbonnet. You just so is Charbonnet? I saw in our sheet you actually put him over. Jahmyr Gibbs. You like him better? I mean, and I think it's fine. I think it's bold, but I think it's fine. It's really with Charbonnet. I think he's one of these guys where, I got to watch some of the, once I watched some of the highlights and the YouTube stuff, but once I got my hands on some of the all 22s and watched those, I got to see just you can really see what a zone penetrator he is and just how good he is between the tackles. And then you just, when you get those end zone views, it's very, very obvious and very, very clear how intentional and decisive he is. I think he's going to be a terrific NFL runner. I think he's going to be a terrific asset in the receiving game. I mean, his receiving chops are undeniable. He's big. He's fast enough.
I mean, that's really it for me. He's so big and he's fast and he can catch the ball. He's an excellent pass catcher. I just don't know that we have that combination, of intangibles and, skill set from any other back behind Bijan Robinson. And so I'll be a trash man and go out on the limb and take Charbonnet there.
Okay, well, for me, the number 3 is really, really easy. It's what I thought you were going to say, because I was pressuring you to move Jackson Smith and Jigba up above the guy who you had as your number 1 in Quentin Johnston. So I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigba here. Clearly, I can't believe I'm starting out. I get to pick Bijan and JSN, the running back 1 and the wide receiver 1. But clearly, everybody knows how we feel about Jackson Smith and Jigba. All he's done through the process is continue, even despite little hurdles and little obstacles and little things like deciding not to run the 40 and all the rest of it and being injured for all this season. He's done the things through the process that, it feels like he's gotten the entire fantasy community, the entire NFL community, basically to consider him the wide receiver 1, even though oftentimes those groups are reticent to do so for players that played primarily out of the slot in college. So JSN for me, that will be my third pick. And we should, whatever we say these guys, we should probably say their position in their school, just in case newer listeners that haven't heard us break all these guys down. So that's Zach Charbonnet, the running back from UCLA, going 2nd. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State, goes off the board 3rd here in this 1 quarterback 12 pick dynasty rookie mock. All right, you're the 104 trash man.
Then I'll take Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean that's the obvious. See, the next pick is where this gets really hard, trash man. So we'll take Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama. My running back 2 currently have Zach Charbonnet at number 3, but I can understand trash man doing this. I'm not going to be getting Gibbs over Charbonnet, but the fact that he has Charbonnet at 2 and I have Gibbs at 2, and we each have those guys at 3 for each of us personally, that means that Byron's gonna have to come in and break that tie. And I'll be really interested to see what Byron says, once he does his breakdown of Gibbs versus Charbonnet. This, to me, the 1.05 is where it feels like. This feels like the 110 in Superflex, right? because in Superflex you get this feels like the 109 is Superflex. Because with these, like these are the four, like these are those four players that we just talked about are the four that I really want, along with those four quarterbacks. So in whatever order they go off, like I feel like by the time you get through the first 8 in Superflex, these four guys are going to go off, and maybe Jordan Addison is going to be there. Maybe Jordan Addison goes off, but the four quarterbacks: Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, in whatever order, those four guys are going to be off the board. I was picking at 110 in a Superflex earlier, and somebody did take Jordan Addison. And at that point, I was very disappointed. I had Jordan Addison lined up, and I know that I've been talking about maybe liking Zay Jones better than Jordan Addison and stuff.
Liking who?
I'm sorry, not Zay Jones. Zay Flowers better than Jordan Addison. Whenever my nuts were out on the table and I was actually making a pick in one of these leagues that I care about, I was disappointed that somebody took Jordan Addison at the 109.
Maybe
so
that's how you really feel.
Yeah, and so Jordan, I mean, I can't get Jordan Addison's 2021 season at Pitt out of my head, and I think that there were just plays at USC that that he put on tape that were magnificent. He wasn't quite as prolific, but it was a new system. He moved across the country, a lot of pressure, surrounded with a lot better, lot better surrounding cast, a lot more competition. Jordan Addison is still ranked by guys like Daniel Jeremiah as his top wide receiver in the whole draft, by far. And so kind of going with the wisdom of crowd stuff, going with my own personal feelings. Like when I got into this spot just earlier today, like I said, in one of my more important leagues, I was disappointed that it was going to have to be Flowers instead of Jordan Addison. So Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC, previously of Pitt, is who I will go with here at the 1, 2, 3, with the 105. Trashman, we're back to you with the 106.
Then I'll go with my boy Quentin Johnston.
Okay, so with Quentin Johnston
out of TCU.
So Quentin Johnston from TCU, disappointing 3-cone, disappointing 40 time, horrible pro day. Got a lot of Josh Doxson vibes while I was there. Just because I was standing in the same place I was standing when I was watching Josh Doxson. But it felt like I had issues with the hands. I had issues with the way he looked, with his change of direction and everything like that. But Scott Barrett, our good friend, he had a great thread on Twitter. I'd recommend everybody going to look at. I think it's at Scott Barrett DFB he's from fantasypoints.com. He's been on the pod a million times. He's been on the radio show a lot. He's a super sharp dude. And he was just talking about Quentin Johnston and how historically good he is in the forced missed tackles and just his yards after catch, his elusiveness.
You can't deny what he did there at TCU. I mean, I get it. He had a bad pro day. I mean, I wasn't there. So that lends some bias in either direction for both of us. But I can't deny what he did at TCU. I can't deny his prototypical build. I can't deny the speed that he has on tape, that he shows on tape. To me, I just think he's got arguably the most potential to be a number one receiver on a given NFL squad, just out of the gate.
We got Cody Carpentier, our good friend, in chat saying, what if Johnston goes 33 to Houston? Well, Cody, you know that they're after. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he'll go at that. I don't think he'll go at, what do they pick at 12? Houston picks at 12, right? Is that right? Let me just look and make sure.
I thought it was earlier, but
no, because they traded. Yeah, so they got 12 in the pick from Cleveland. So picking at 12, and I mean it was not any mystery or like it wasn't. It was just very, very, very clear that Nick Caserio was there at the TCU Pro Day to watch Quentin Johnston. There wasn't anybody there else that he was there to watch. You know, he was standing there around him when he was doing his stuff, all of it. And Kendre Miller at the combine, the running back from TCU, he was asked by one of these dinky reporters that goes around and say like, "Hey, have you met with the Bengals? Have you met with the you know these guys do this, right?"
Mm-hmm.
They go back to their fan blogs and they're like, every prospect in the league says they'd love to play for the Browns. It's like, because of course it's like, what would it mean to you to get to play for the Cleveland Browns? You'd be like, oh, the Browns, that would be great. Any team that drafts me is like, if they want me, like I'm just gonna be there to do work, like all of it. I just don't understand what kind of content these people are trying to harvest. They spend all that money to go to the combine, and like you come home with that kind of story. But anyway, this dude asked Kendre Miller.
They're heroes.
Asked Kendre Miller if he's met with the Texans, and Kendre Miller just said yes, they're very interested in Quentin Johnston.
Quentin Johnston.
He just came out and said that. So I don't know, man. Maybe he could. I'm not sure he falls to 33, Cody.
I don't know. I don't know that it'll fall to 33. Is the only thing.
But we have fallen to the. I've been filibustering here because I hate this pick.
I don't think more than two wide receivers go before Johnston.
I mean, to me, what I'm thinking here is, okay, I'm not going to in a one quarterback league, I'm not going to go with a quarterback. Clearly, if this was a super flex league, I'd go with any quarterback that were available to me here. Trashman, just out of curiosity, in super flex, do you still? I know in one quarterback, Anthony Richardson is the way to go, just because of the absolute upside and just the dynamic athleticism and the fact that you could just have an absolute nuclear monster on your hands. Mm-hmm. In Superflex, it's a little bit different because a lot of times, like, you can get these guys who, if they're just if they turn out to be back end quarterback ones and you can get them in immediately and they're, mm-hmm. Those guys have a lot more value in Superflex than they do in a league where it's just a onesie position, right? Mm-hmm. And so, in Superflex, are you more interested in like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud than an Anthony Richardson, or do you still go with the upside of Richardson? Just gotta. I know in one quarterback you're gonna say Richardson.
I go with Young there.
Yeah, I think I would too. That's what I was hoping I could do in a possible trade up that I was working on in this draft that just got started earlier today. I was planning to move up to the 1.04 to see if I could get Bryce Young right after Anthony Richardson went at the it went Bijan, Anthony Richardson 1.02, Jackson Smith and Jigba 1.03. I was trying to get to 1.04 to get to Bryce Young because I kind of wanted him in that Superflex league more than I wanted Anthony Richardson, who a lot of NFL evaluators now are starting to say this guy's going to, you're going to need to be patient with him for at least a couple of years.
Anderson or Young? Anderson.
Oh, no. Richardson.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. You're thinking of Will Anderson, who's going to be going pretty close to those guys in the real NFL draft. I'm thinking right now, for me, it's either Zay Flowers, the wide receiver from Boston College, or for me, it's hard because I have a group of running backs right here after these guys in Kendre Miller and Roschon Johnson, A-Chain. These guys I kind of have in all in the similar bucket, right? I think after Zay Flowers, I don't really, my next guy after that is probably Josh Downs. And I'd much, much, much rather have Zay Flowers than Josh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Zay Flowers right here because I know if you go running back with one of these next picks, that I'll just be able to pick whoever is left over between those guys. So I'll take Zay Flowers, the truly dynamic wide receiver out of Boston College, Shrine Game participant this year. The Shrine Game, just the crown jewel of the Shrine Game, and a guy who we sort of consider to be a mix of a Santonio Holmes meets Elijah Moore. Byron calls him a little bit of a Philip Dorsett type. Zay Flowers, Boston College. That's where I'm going here. You're now at the 1.07, and I think this right here for me is where things get unusually tough. Like I think if you're at the, I'm sorry. So the 1.0 is that so Bijan. It went Bijan, Charbonnet, JSN, Gibbs, Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers. The 1.07 is where things get really hard because it feels like there's a fall off at all these spots.
Yeah. I mean, would it be crazy to take Richardson there then?
I don't necessarily think so.
I think I'll take Richardson. I'm going with upside here.
Okay.
So far,
I mean, I think it's probably
I'm swinging for the fences, and so I think taking Anderson here, Richardson. I think I'm conflating Anthony and Richardson and saying Anderson. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to take Richardson there. Why not?
Okay, so he'll take Anthony Richardson, the upside
out of
monster,
Florida.
The upside monster quarterback out of Florida. If you want to see what he looked like at his pro day, Byron was out there attending it. He filmed. It's a pretty shitty job he did filming all the quarterback reps, but you can at least sort of see. And then, I mean, I would just go if you didn't see what he was able to do at his combine performance. He broke every record that there is. You know, he's like a nuclear, like Cam Newton meets Josh Allen kind of guy. Just going to need some work. 53% completion percentage, and another guy that, you know, I was watching some all 22 of Florida today as well, Trashman, and I wanted to watch the wide receiver Cedric Tillman, a guy who we haven't done our work on, but a guy who got mocked in Lance Zierlein's most recent mock with the last pick in the first round. And I was like, well, shit. I mean, we need to get an eval on this guy for sure. He didn't pop onto the radar for it because he didn't get pulled in because of his statistical profile from 2022, had him playing with an injury and being hurt for most of the time. But watching some of that 2021 stuff and a little bit of 2022, you can see that Richardson, I mean, there are some things he's going to need to work on. So, all right. So for me with this next one, I'm going with my guy. I've already taken Bijan Robinson. My next pick here is going to be Roschon Johnson, his backup from the University of Texas. He was, another guy that's just really good in that forced missed tackle stuff. A complete, what do you call him? Just like a picturesque, perfect employee, about as good as you can imagine, just from a team standpoint.
Model employee.
And he's just good, man. He's going to be a guy that uses short yard situations. He's the best pass protector in the draft. I'm not sure that he's going to be somebody who's going to completely take the lid off of the defense and take it to the house the way that Bijan was able to do. But he's always going to be falling forward. He's always driving his legs. He's an ex-quarterback. He's got a real, real good mind for the game. He's probably the best 225 pounds just on the hoof that I've seen in a running back, just with the way he looks. So we'll go Roschon Johnson there with that pick. We have Cody saying Byron's too busy fondling himself over the player ID from Richardson. He couldn't hold the camera still. That was good of Byron to get that. This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch. Maybe I'll stick that one in at the beginning of this once we get into post-production. All right, so Trashman, it is gone. Bijan Robinson, Texas. Zach Charbonnet, running back UCLA. Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver Ohio State. Jahmyr Gibbs, running back Alabama. Jordan Addison, wide receiver USC. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver TCU. Zay Flowers, wide receiver Boston College. Anthony Richardson, quarterback Florida. Roschon Johnson, running back Texas. So that gets us to the 1.09. You are now at the 1.10 with your second to last pick in this one quarterback dynasty mock.
Okay, and did you already take Flowers?
Yes. It sucks. It sucks taking somebody right after that fall off.
Yeah.
I didn't want either one to do it.
In that case, I will take, I'm going to go with Eze Abanikanda.
You like Abanikanda better than Kendre Miller?
Okay. So I don't know if he's a better athlete. I don't think he's probably a better athlete, but I think an NFL team is more likely to put Abanikanda in a position to succeed than they are going to with Achane.
Oh my God, trash man. Oh, with A-Chain. Oh, I wouldn't even. I was considering Kendra Miller. You were considering A-Chain. You might like him better than A-Chain and Kendra. You're gonna have a Banacanda top 5?
Oh, I thought Miller had already.
Miller's available.
Miller's still there. Then I'll take Miller.
Okay, so you'll take Kendra Miller.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I am going to move Abanikanda over A-Chain.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is going to be an anticlimactic ending to this thing because I'm going to take Devon A-Chain here from Texas A&M with the with the 1.11. I don't love him. I don't love the fact that he's sub 190. I don't like the fact that he's a guy with small hands, short arms. I've talked about all this, but as Trashman has pointed out, it's really hard to look at him and watch him on tape and not say that he plays a lot bigger and a lot meaner and a lot more fierce than that. He really is. You know, he's a fun player to watch. The team that gets him is going to look at him to be a weapon. And I know that, you know, we're going on total outlier cases here, but as we talked about, he could be a supercharged like Philip Lindsay type of player. I think he's going to be more than just like a Tariq Cohen, Dree Archer type of guy. He really does have he's got a really good profile across the board. And so I'll go with A-Chain here. I don't think he's going to fall this far in most drafts. And I guess I know who you're going to take at the 112.
Yeah. I'm taking Izzy.
Okay. So, and then Izzy Abanikanda from Pitt. And if you want to know more about him, you can watch our breakdown from just the last podcast here on the podcast feed or on YouTube to go check him out. But a guy that's kind of moving up for us. He's not going to be top 5 for me, but he's certainly going to be in that tier of guys I start considering more. I was figuring he was going to be a guy I would be considering more towards the mid to late second of these drafts. But I guess Trashman, you're kind of taking a little bit of a stand here on your guy. Let's just talk about the best of the rest and other guys who could have possibly gone here. If you're doing these drafts and maybe guys you could consider, I think probably in a lot of these setups, you're going to have
like a Bigsby or McIntosh. I think
you think Kenny McIntosh is not gonna go, but I think right
people might take him there.
I'm not Kenny McIntosh.
Yeah,
dude, Kenny don't take a Kenny McIntosh in the first round of these drafts. Are you kidding?
I thought this is the turn.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we're starting to get the turn, but I mean, there's still guys like Josh Downs is still there. Marvin Mims.
I mean, I was just talking about as far as running backs go, because that's what we were most recently talking about.
Yeah, maybe people start going with the Tank Bigsby's of the world. There's a lot of people that love Sean Tucker from Syracuse. He's the next guy that I'll be writing up after I get done with my Tank Bigsby write-up that I'm doing right now. A lot of people love Bigsby. I like Bigsby based on what I've seen so far. I don't think he looks that much different as a junior than he did as a freshman. I'm not sure what that means, but you know, I'll be watching more of him and getting that breakdown up over the weekend on the website. And Trashman and I at the end of the next podcast will probably have the Bigsby breakdowns and some of these next guys that we're going to be doing. But speaking of those breakdowns, Trashman, you just got done with your Tyjae Spears stuff. So let's talk about Tyjae Spears, the running back out of Tulsa. Tulane. So he was a senior, 5'9.5", 204 pounds, 30 5/8 inch
wingspan.
Arm, 10-inch hand. We adjusted the 4.47 that he ran at his pro day to a 4.42. He'll be
4.52.
I'm sorry, a 4.52. Man, I'm all kinds of off today, I guess. He'll be
20. Weather, maybe.
Yeah, he'll be 22 in 2023, so still relatively young for a guy who played all 4 years in college. Little bit of an injury concern with him. He told Cody at the Senior Bowl that his knee was perfect, and he certainly looked like. I mean, he was one of our all Senior Bowl guys there during the week of practices. An excellent pass catcher. I mean, the 10-inch hands sort of go to show that. He's represented by our good friend Martin Frischman, who just has all the best things to say about him from a personality standpoint. Really tough. He basically had the most impressive play of the whole Senior Bowl from any offensive player that I saw, with that one catch and the one-on-one drills at the end of practice where he just embarrassed and stole the soul out of that poor linebacker with that two-way go on the option route. You can find that on Twitter. Just type in like Tyjae Spears steals soul. You probably find it by doing that stuff. I also just he's, to me, I always love these guys with the great contact balance, right? With the ability to shed through their hips, through their bodies, through the lower portions of their legs. And he's a guy who can do that. I remember that it was what was it at PFF? The stat I saw from PFF on Tyjae Spears, it was about his total yards this year versus his yards after contact.
Oh, it's in my write-up.
Oh, okay. Do you remember?
I mean, he had 1,586 yards, and 1,052 of those came after contact.
Yeah, so that's the same stat that I saw. And it's like, and it makes sense, man. He's a bowling ball, and he has the ability to absolutely take over football games. You can go and watch him versus USC. Do you have the numbers pulled up for what he did versus USC?
Yeah.
That's the game you want to watch if you want to see the best of Tyjae Spears.
He had 4 rushing touchdowns, 205 total yards.
Yeah, man. It's like it was the Tyjae Spears just murder fest. Talk about your evaluation of him. Talk about what you saw whenever my exposure to him was in the bowl game, and then just, of course, getting to be around him for the week of the Senior Bowl, seeing him at the Combine and stuff like that. But I felt like the intel that we got with him was good, since we got to be around him a little bit more than usual, just because of the connections with the agency and stuff like that.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Spears is built like a third down back, and I think a lot of people are going to pigeonhole him as one, but he plays more like a bruising between the tackles, 2 down back. And you said, like, he's got really good contact balance. Leg tackles aren't going to work against him for the most part. And he's not tiny, he's 204 pounds. And I think he's got room to put on a little bit more weight there too. I don't think it's the kind of thing where he just doesn't have the frame to do it.
He's fine. He looks fine.
Yeah.
I remember the Senior Bowl saying I thought he looked a little bit Michael Carter-ish.
Yeah, that was going to be my initial comparison, but I ended up not going with Carter there. His 6.8
to Devontae Freeman again. You've comped like 3 guys to Devontae Freeman in this.
No, it was just once for Devontae Freeman. No, I comped him to Travis Etienne.
But Etienne's taller and runs like
He's only a half inch taller.
Runs like a duck. Is he really only a half inch taller?
Yeah.
Okay.
And only 4 pounds difference between the two.
Etienne seems so much bigger than Tyjae. I guess not.
But he's, Tyjae's his 6.8 yards per carry at Tulane it's pretty incredible. And like you said, the yards after contact being most of his yards. He's a violent runner when he gets going, displaying a lot of burst and sharp cutting ability. Patient back, almost too patient sometimes. He can be a little indecisive at times because he has the ability to accelerate quickly, and he has that burst, so it doesn't hurt him a lot of the time, or it hasn't in college. But he's going to need to be a little bit more decisive at the next level. Like you said, like at the Senior Bowl, we saw him catch some passes and do some real damage with it, but we didn't see, he wasn't used as a pass catching back that often at Tulane.
Well, what was his receiving his market share of team receptions? So his market share of team receptions at Tulane, it was 20. It was a 9% market share. So it was, even though if you felt like you didn't see it much, it was still good enough, and it meets the threshold. I want to see usually 7% to say that this is a guy who was definitely pretty involved in the receiving game as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So 22, it's not terrible from last season. 9%. You look at a 9% market share, it's just like of all the guys who were at the Combine, that would have been 11th place.
Yeah.
The highest was Evan Hull, 22%. Tank Bigsby was second at 19%. Huh. Here's that list by the way of all the guys with more than 9% market share of team receptions that went to the combine. Evan Hull with 22% from Northwestern, Tank Bigsby from Auburn with 19%, Deuce Vaughn from KSU with 17%, A-Chain from Texas A&M with 16%, Sean Tucker from Syracuse with 16%, Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama with 16%, Eric Gray from Oklahoma with 13%, your boy Kenny McIntosh from Georgia with 13%, our guy Zach Charbonnet from UCLA with 13%, Mr. Fall Down and lose his shoes and his helmet, Chase Brown from Illinois at 10%, and then Tyjae Spears at 9%. So 11th best in that particular metric of all players at the NFL Combine. So, yeah, I can certainly see it. So your comp to him is Travis Etienne. Where do you think he's going to get drafted? Is it going to be a day 2 pick?
I think so.
I'm looking here on Mock Draftable, and his top 2 comps of people that you would recognize, definitely not Etienne, but it was it's Travis Homer and Damian Harris. What do you think of those? He doesn't look like very Damian Harris-ish.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Damian Harris. I mean, I guess maybe the running styles, maybe.
Look at this other one, Kenneth Dixon, another Louisiana guy, repped by Frischman. It's kind of funny. He's kind of Kenneth Dixon like. I don't mind that one. He doesn't have the small hands like Kenneth Dixon.
No, he's got huge hands.
Yep. All right, so moment of truth then, Trash Man. I mean, where do you rank Tyjae Spears? Do you like him? So he's below A-Chain and Abanikanda for you?
I don't know that he's below A-Chain.
You don't know that he's below A-Chain? Oh, all right. So he's above Eric Gray.
Yeah.
Because leaving the Senior Bowl, we kind of thought Eric Gray, Tyjae are, 2 peas in a pod. We like them both sort of the same.
I feel like Spears is a more dynamic player than Gray.
Yeah. So Spears and you're to the point where you might like Spears better than your sweetest lover baby boy Devon A-Chain from Texas A&M.
It's nothing personal. It's just I think that more teams are going to be able to find something to do with Spears on a consistent basis than A-Chain, or give him a chance. I just don't know. I don't have enough faith in the NFL to give A-Chain the opportunities he deserves.
But you have faith in them to give those opportunities to Tyjae Spears
more so than A-Chain. I mean, I feel like it's kind of similar. They're kind of in similar boats, but Spears is a little bit bigger. Has shown that he can. I mean, those yards per carry and the yards after contact. I mean, you can't. That's something you really can't deny. And I think teams give him, the benefit of the doubt based on that, more so than A-Chain.